There's a certain magic in things we leave behind. Words, memories, moments frozen in time. We search for meaning, for something that connects us to a feeling, a memory, or a story. In every page, in every crease, there's history, nostalgia waiting to be uncovered. But nostalgia isn't just about looking back, it's about how it feels. It's the warmth, the imperfections, the texture of life itself. Like film, every moment is crafted, every frame tells a story. This is the power of film and the tools that make it possible. Now, I feel like it's time to break down this whole intro. This is called Dehancer. Okay, let me clean off this desk real quick. So you may ask yourself, what is Dehancer? Well, Dehancer is a plugin for achieving that film look that most of us all love. It lets you recreate the timeless aesthetics of film. Dehancer did reach out to me and they said they want an honest review. So if you know anything with this channel, you know I only want to work with companies who I truly back. And for them to say they wanted honesty, it was very noble of them. So while you're watching this, and if you want to use Dehancer yourself, use this coupon code and hit the link in the description. Now this plugin has a lot of options and choices to choose from. And if I was to sit here all day, this video would be hours long. So I don't want to waste your time. But I do want to share my philosophy of why I chose what I chose while making this intro. Every shot was intentional, but I just want to say I'm no professional or colorist. I just want to share my ideas while using this plugin. So let's head over to the editing booth. All right, welcome to the editing booth. I'm going to put myself smaller so you can see my interface. So the first thing. Once you have Dehancer installed, in this case I use Adobe Premiere, I go to Input. Input is the most important thing before even thinking about color grading. What Input is it's telling the sequence of what camera you shot on. In this case, I shot with a Sony FX30 with S-Log 3 with 800 ISO, so I chose that. But don't worry, if you shot on an iPhone or just a camera that isn't using a flat profile, I highly recommend using Rec 709. But there's so many different camera options for Dehancer. Now, after choosing your camera that you chose, I highly recommend going to film. This is where it gets super fun. There are so many options to choose from while getting your colors for your video. After playing around with it for weeks, I chose the Kodak Ultramax 400. I went with that for the whole project. Reason being is because I love those warm tones. And again, that nostalgia feeling. Footage is just mwah. And for me, warmer tones tells the viewer that it's inviting. So it's a little psychology to it, but again, I'm no colorist. That's the vibe I got from using it. But you choose what you want. And Dehancer actually uses real profiles that are based on film scans, so you're not just getting a preset, it's a character of an actual film. So you got your film profile checked off. Now, the next important step is print. Now, you may ask yourself, what is print? Print is nice when you really want to hone in on your colors. With your saturation and contrast, it can really make or break a clip. So adjusting these accordingly is crucial for any project. Now, I went ahead and chose the glossy paper, the Kodak Endura glossy paper. Reason being is I just liked the way it looked. I'm a fan of color and more of a flat look. But again, you can choose whatever you want. There's no right or wrong here. It's just a self-expression. Now, going down, you can target your white, so your white balance, your exposure, your contrast, your color density, and saturation. This is like very crucial points here. So just balance what you like and what you preference. Now it is important to hit enable on every single setting you do. It's just telling the plugin that you want it on the footage. So this is one of my favorite features. This is called film grain. Instead of just overlaying, an image or just a grain, Dehancer actually integrates it into the footage. So it reacts to light and shadows organically. I kept it very subtle here, with grain size just slightly dialed down for more of a cleaner look. And I went with that for the whole project. Personally, I love how film grain looks. It just has that rawness to it. But just play around with it. I chose the 35mm at 500 ISO, but you can go all the way down to 8mm at 500, and that's really packing it. But yeah, this is what I chose, the 35mm at 500. Now, after film grain, what follows it right behind it is film damage. It's another favorite of mine. When Dehancer introduced this to me for the first time, it was a deal breaker. It's one of my favorites. It's like, if you don't know what it is, it's like the little specks that you see throughout the scene. It could have white or black or even scratches the more, intense that you go, but it just really gives you that film look that you're going for. Now, a lot of people may oversee this, but for us creators, people who really love that nostalgia feeling, like right here, you have that white speck, and then as the clip plays, it's a beautiful thing. Now, you can attune it to which way you want. There's 8mm, 16, 35, 65, more modern. You can even customize it too, but I chose 35 for the whole way through. It's not too in your face, but when you notice it, you notice it. So once you got your film damage already locked in, next would be your film developer. If you're into less contrasts like myself, I don't like my blacks looking too black. It's just a preference of mine. I like a milky looking black. It has that film-esque to it. And if you watch movies, blacks are not truly black. They're either on a bluer hue or a warmer hue, a green hue. It's just how the film director wanted it. But I tend to go on the milky aspect. And I use the 4:3 aspect ratio, or if I'm using a cinematic bar, I use those blacks as a reference point. That way I can make my image pop. It's just a little secret. What's nice about using Dehancer is that you don't have to go to Adobe's basic color correction or the creative, the curves. You can just simply go over to the plugin and just set everything that way. Just makes the workflow nice. Color grading is really where you shape the mood. Using the color head tool, I leaned into the more warmer tones in the highlights while pulling the shadows slightly cooler. This balance creates depth and it makes the footage feel timeless. So, as you see here, I didn't use blues, greens, or reds. I kind of let the film do its job, but I did adjust the shadows and midtones, and I want to explain. So, the more negative you go, the more cooler it gets. And the more higher it goes, the more warmer it gets. So I chose -65 here. Now the midtones is where, where the warmth is coming from. And if I drag this down, see how, cooler it gets. And I just left that at 56. I did want to keep the white balance true. So if you see this light right here, that's white. That's pure white. But again, I wanted that warmer feeling to give you an inviting look. Highlight tones, I kept that at -6. That's just where my eye liked it at. If you go higher, it just creates the whole image warm. I didn't really want that. And then the preserve exposure, didn't touch that and really feel like I needed to. And impact, that's where all the colors are coming in. I left that at 100. So if you go all the way down, it's those colors are not there anymore. The way I see colors are more of like an emotion. Blues are like sad, dramatic, while yellow is warm and inviting. Green is essentially like scary. Everyone has their own style. There's no right or wrong way. Like obviously there's like really bad color grading where everything's blown out and saturated and doesn't really have like oomph to it, but the more you play and the more you make videos, you'll get a sense of what you like. Next we got Bloom and Halation. They're like brother and sister, but they're kind of different. Let me explain. So halation is that dreamy glow that you see around bright areas. You can see it in older movies, but it softens the image and it adds this beautiful imperfection. And I added it to mine to have that vintage feeling. It's so nice. But Bloom on the other hand complements halation by softening the highlights even further. It's essentially like honing in on that glow. It's not washing out the colors, but it's still keeping that vintage vibe to it. And let me explain. So I kept halation at 35 because I didn't want to go overboard on the PS2. I really wanted you to see that Sony logo because it's iconic. If I were to bump it up to like 8, like that's where it starts to get kind of, yeah, Super 8 no receipt. That's where it starts to get like really like in your face. But I wanted to keep it subtle, so I kept it at 35. Now for Bloom, I went ahead and chose 35 as well. I feel like 35 is like a good middle ground. If you go lower, that's where it intensifies. 65 is more like modern. See how like those glows around the PS2 just, bumped up? Now I'm going to go back to 35 and it makes it subtle. If you caught this clip right here, I used Overscan. It essentially gives the clip like a TV or a screen effect. It's simply an overlay giving you that nostalgia feeling. There's a lot of different features and effects to play around with, but I went with the more film roll look. Now if you go to Overscan, there's multiple options. You get the Super 8, that's really popular right now. You got multiple 16s. Boom, boom. 35 like I used to fit that text in there too. That's why I used it. You get the widescreen 35 and then you get the 65 as well. That's really wide looking. But then if you're doing vertical content, for instance, this is going vertically, but you can essentially fit your clip if you're doing like Instagram reels and stuff like that. But then you can do your roundness to it too of the box. So I went with normal, but you can do sharp, giving you that pointed edge to it, and you can go rounded as well. But I chose normal. And then do you see how like you have the negatives on the side here? You can go positives as well, giving you that white look. But on this particular clip, I felt it was like really distracting, so I went with the negative. Now, Overscan is really awesome because it's just like a classic. It's essentially what it's doing. It's just shaking the image or the text. And for instance, I use this subtly on the text because if it's too much, it's overbearing and you can't really read what's going on. But I noticed a lot of classic movies around like the 50s and 70s era, like the main titles would always shake, and I love that. So cool. A great tool that really helped me out on this project is if you scroll all the way down and hit monitor and hit false color, this is where it's telling you if you're overexposed or not. And if you go over to expand again and go to your black points and like, for instance, bump it all the way up, it's telling you to like, all right, dude, you need to chill out. And it's same for whites too. So let me do the whites too, just to show you. If I go way out, look at that. It's like telling you, all right, you're way overexposed in these areas here, but you just need to balance it out. A nice feature to really help you, get those colors right and get that contrast the way you want it. If you go down to output, this is just the overall effect on the image. And if you need to tweak things, if you made a mistake of, oh, this is too exposed over here or it's too saturated, you can just simply use this tool instead of going into every single effect. So output's really nice if you made some mistakes. But I left mine on 100 because I went through every single clip just to make sure everything was right. I went overboard here, but it's all right. Just making your footage look nice is... All right, back at the table because Dehancer did want me to do an honest review, and I'm gonna do just that. I feel like as a company, you should be implementing more ways to become a better plugin or software, and it's good. It's good that they listen to people like me doing these reviews. So I just want to be honest with you. I don't like sugarcoating things. So I found 3 cons as the weeks went by while using this plugin. So the first one, as someone who wants to be fast and efficient while editing, I could scroll with my mouse wheel, but I can't hover over my film effects to give me a preview. And I feel like that can be easily fixed. So that's my first one. My second one is favorites and go-tos. You see, I just finished this project and I spent hours scaling and getting all those colors right, and I don't have favorites to go back on to make my colors look consistent going forward. So it would be nice to implement little folders that you can go to from previous projects and have those as a preset. That'd be really nice. Number 3 would be, I can't move effects around. For instance, like I can't do input to, film grain. I can't move those little boxes around. It would be nice to have everything in order so when I go to color grade, everything is aligned to where I want it to be and customized to my own liking. So I feel like those are so small and you can definitely fix that. I know your company's big enough to do that. So those are my cons. While I was working on this video, I realized that there's a lot of short form creators out there, and Dehancer does have an iOS app for on the go. It's not just a filter app, it's packed with tools inspired by film, from color grading to bloom effects. It's like a phone version of the desktop plugin. It's pretty cool what you can do and achieve just from your phone when you're not at your desktop, but you still want to get some work done. Now, my final tip would be just have fun. When you download Dehancer, don't get discouraged. Just keep finding and tuning to how you like it and how you want your project to look. Find inspiration from old films or even newer films. Watch your favorite YouTuber and try to implement that. There's so many ways to find your own style. And you may ask yourself, will I be using Dehancer going forward? And if I'm being 100% honest here, the answer is yes. If you watch this channel consistently, you know I love adding nostalgia to my footage, and Dehancer really provides that. So I wouldn't be making a video if I didn't feel like this is good. So I'm gonna keep using it forward. If you got any value, let me know. This is Ricky, and I'm gonna end it off here. See you later, and if you have any comments or concerns, I'll be sure to help you. Peace out.